First, I'm going to deal with this little issue that started a couple weeks ago, where I discussed our natural diet, and I suggested that we have these canines, right? Mammals in general who are carnivores have them. And a fellow says the following, okay, related to that. He says, "Man is a meat eater, but canines have nothing to do with it." Aha. Gorilla, a plant eater, has the longest canine of any primate. And that's true. I mentioned that the other day, okay, and here it is. You can see he's got big fangs there. But so do chimps, and they do eat meat. They do kill, in fact, other chimps. They cannibalize. So exactly why gorillas have these big teeth, I have no idea. They're not carnivores. They're primarily herbivores. They do eat termites and tiny insects, apparently. I don't think they're into meat per se. I don't know if they can eat meat. And talking about gorillas, I thought I'd mention this. Their genetic diversity is twice as high as that of humans, same as chimpanzees. And there's only, about 106,000, 107,000 gorillas in the world, most of them there in those regions of Africa. And we're 8 billion. And they have twice as much genetic diversity as us. So keep that in mind, okay? And my issue with animals such as gorillas, is that we probably don't need them on Earth, dangerous animals. Should we preserve them? Should we try to, like a lot of these conservationists do, they try to, see if they can save animals here and there, endangered species, and all this kind of work that they do. And I suggest the following, the opposite. I'm saying we should kill all dangerous animals. We don't need alligators. We don't need sharks. We do not need lions. We do not need tigers. We don't need any of these dangerous animals out there. Bears, wolves, we don't need them. And some people say, oh, but you're going to upset the natural balance. Believe me, when the mastodons and the woolly mammoths disappeared, the world didn't stop. Okay, we all kept going. And I'm sure that if today we go into the different countries of Africa that have a lot of these wild animals, and we wipe them all out, I mean, completely. We kill the lions, we kill the hyenas, we kill these dogs that are running around, the wildebeest, also the zebras. Let's kill them all. Sharks, well, not sharks, but alligators or crocodiles, whatever. Let's kill them all. And I'm sure that if we go in there and get rid of them and we plant potatoes or bananas or whatever grows in each of those countries, nothing will happen. In other words, the world will not come to a stop because we killed all the lions. By the way, there's only like 20,000 lions, I found out today. Last count I had 35,000 lions. So lions are dying really fast. Okay, they're on their way out. And the other reason I suggest getting rid of these animals is that we are about to become extinct. So we don't need them in our last few days of our stay here on Earth. So if you're into the extinction theory and you believe that that man is in trouble, that we're about to become extinct, getting rid of all these animals doesn't even tickle us. Okay, in fact, we're doing them a favor. You might say, Bill, you're crazy. What do you mean we're doing that? We're killing them? Yeah, I mean, it's called euthanasia. It's like we don't wait for them to suffer, being the last lonely animals. Like, you had the some animals out there, different animals in different parts of the world. When they were the last ones, the last Neanderthals, for example, it must have been very, very sad to see that. Here's the last of their species. And the question is, why wait for that day? Why wait for lions to whittle down until there's only 10 or 15 of them, lonely animals there? I'm not sure we're doing them any harm by getting rid of them today, aside from the fact that they are dangerous animals. Why do we need them? And think about that. I know people don't like me saying all that, but think about it for a minute. Do we need these animals? Would it be better off if we got rid of them? Anyways, I did say about the canines that here you have the dog, the snake, the shark especially. They have big fangs, okay, whereas the cow doesn't. And so to answer this fellow, I would say that, no, we do not use these. We did not develop, I think, our canines, the upper ones, for protection. I think we developed them as carnivores. How the gorillas developed theirs, I don't know. All I can tell you is that some of these other animals that you saw there, like the hippo and so on, their canines come from the bottom up. They don't have canines coming down. So if you look at them, they all have, including the rhino, it's got this horn. It's not a tooth, but this horn is always coming upwards. Those are, yes, for defense. I was looking at Triceratops also had this beak, coming upwards, and then the horns, and so when you look at all this, those features I think were for defense. That's very different than an animal such as a lion, any cat for that matter, that has the upper ones coming down, and I think those are specifically of carnivores. And in fact, that's how they determine sometimes when they find bones in the mountain, from way back when, millions of years ago, they look at the teeth and they say, look, this animal was a herbivore and this other animal was a carnivore. And they can tell because of the teeth, or at least that's a good rule of thumb, to figure that out. Anyway, talking about lions, here's a fellow who says, he says, lions have a sense of time, which I said last time, they wait for the migrations of some of these other animals, could be wildebeest, could be zebras or whatever. And they have these migrations. When they come around, the lions know that all these herbivores are coming in their direction. It's like, it's not a watch, but it is a calendar. It's like they have a calendar in their brains, and so they have a sense of time. They also, I say that, like a lion has a sense of timing. Like when he hides and he waits to ambush some kind of prey, he knows more or less, intuitively, whether he can catch that animal or not, how fast he is and how fast the animal is. And based on that, he knows when to start to run after it. He's not going to run after an animal that's, a mile away. He doesn't do that. He waits for the animal to approach him. And then at some point, there's a give and take between the animal discovering the lion and running away, and the lion have to act. And so at some point he runs after the deer or whatever. And, and it's a timing issue. They know more or less whether they can catch that animal knowing their own speed. So they know how much time they have, So I think that animals do have a sense of time. He says, are you serious? Time is a man-made concept, period. What next? Time dilation, remember physics, not concepts. Okay, well, I just have to enlighten this fellow on something else, and here it is. The circadian clock, say circadian or circadian rhythm, right? And there it says, clocks in the eye and the pineal gland of fish, reptiles, and birds, the eyes of marine mollusks, etc., Drosophila, the fly. All these have this circadian rhythm. And so the question is, do animals have some kind of clock? And I would say they do. Bears know that at some point in the year they have to go into the cave. It's winter's coming. Then they come out in summer after sleeping it off, which is, again, a circadian rhythm kind of thing. And so the issue is, animals do have a sense of time as far as I'm concerned. And, instead of saying, wow, you got to argue why you think they don't. Not just say, oh, that's crazy, or whatever. No, answer the question, why do you think animals don't have, not all animals probably, I don't know, I can tell you that some mammals I think have a sense of time. And maybe a rudimentary one, it's not the seconds and minutes that we have, but they do have a sense, an intuitive sense of timing. So I don't think humans are the only animals that have discovered time. Okay, here we have something that happened in the 19th century, changing the subject a little bit. And it's the British, and they took over certain parts of India and Pakistan and Burma and some of these countries out there. Okay, they went in there, and looks like now it's the other way around. Now it looks like India and Pakistan and some of these other countries are taking over England, over Great Britain. Here you see the new wave of rulers and people who have power in the United Kingdom, and none of them have, English-sounding names. In fact, most of them are from either Pakistan, descendants from Pakistan and India. So maybe we should change the flag and put the Indian flag with two Pakistani flags, side by side with a Union Jack there, Maybe we should get rid of the lion, put the tiger as the mascot, Because, the people who are ruling Great Britain now are really, a lot of them are not traditional British. Okay, and that's interesting. So I guess it's reverse conquest. Great, United Kingdom conquered India, Pakistan, the whole region. Now these people are conquering Great Britain. Okay, here we had a case, a fellow who apparently went in there and took some information and put it on the internet, and so the Pentagon and some of the defense group, and intelligence services, they were a little concerned about that, and they arrested this fellow the other day. Apparently some kind of gamer had a little group there where he shared this information, and so they made a big fuss about that. What was interesting is that I had a similar feeling to this fellow, and he's from Russia. He's one of the ministers over there, and he had the following. He says U.S. intelligence leaks may be a fake, part of a hybrid war against Russia, right? Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said on Wednesday that a trove of U.S. intelligence documents posted online in recent weeks might be fake and a deliberate attempt to mislead Moscow. Okay, and yeah, intelligence agencies do a lot of that. I can testify to that. They do more than steal information. They're in the business of misinforming the other side. I think that's more what they do. That's my take on that. And so, you have people like Assange and Ed Snowden. As far as I'm concerned, those are U.S. government operations. They have nothing to do with spying. They're not spying against Russia. They're not spying against China. No, they're spying against the American people. Okay, that's their job. They're put there as the leaders of the United States dissidents, political dissidents, so that people follow them and say, well, I trust this guy because the U.S. is against them. And what the guy is feeding you is what the U.S. wants you to swallow. So that's the way it works. So you got to be careful about all that. Sleep with one eye open. I can't tell you that all of them are fakes, but certainly a lot of them are. The United States spends $90 billion a year in intelligence, and most of that is to keep its own people under wraps. Okay, here you have this situation. We have a fellow who went to China. He's from France. He's the president. His name is Emmanuel Macron, right? And he went over there and he started bad-mouthing the United States, more or less, okay? He said that he doesn't want Europe to become a vassal to the United States, and that Europe in general should reduce its dependence on the U.S. dollar. He further added that Europe should chart a different course from the U.S. with Taiwan. Man, those were strong words. And this one, at least, from the Daily Beast, he said, has reminded us that several deep and important global friendships of the U.S. have been sorely tested. More worrisome, perhaps, is that they may be a sign of things to come for us in a world in which we are no longer the only global superpower, and our principal rival, a global bloc led by China, is seeking to build up its own network of influence. So a lot of people had lots to say about what Macron had to say over there in China, bad-mouthing the United States and all that. And in fact, one of them said the following, and this was a German minister, said this about Macron. He says, the idea of strategic autonomy of the European Union, I fear, is naive, meaning that Mr. Macron was naive, right? Security on European soil without the strategic nuclear potential of the United States, at least, is unthinkable. The U.S. and Europe are partners in values and should also be trading partners, the finance minister added, alluding to the ongoing negotiations between the Biden administration and the EU regarding the Inflation Reduction Act, a subsidy program which favors investment in the U.S., drawing them away from Europe. So, he gave his little kick to the U.S., saying, you're subsidizing your own industry, but we agree with you. Macron is out of line, saying that Europe should distance itself a little bit from the U.S. and that Taiwan is not Europe's business, etc., etc. Again, I doubt that Mr. Macron really believes that or said that, in an honest way. Okay, so this is my take on that, and here it is, this analysis. Macron went to China for what? He went to sell airplanes. That's why he went there for. He didn't go there to talk about Taiwan. He didn't go there to talk about badmouth the U.S. That was all politics. What he went there is to sell airplanes. Okay, and that's what the main discussion was. Well, after they had their talks, what was the result? Well, it says no new airplane orders were announced during the visit. China said, well, we'll see. Okay. And I think that's the main reason he went there. And just to rub it in, here's what one of his Macron's ministers said. Okay, this is how politics is really done. Okay, it says, Le Maire, he's the finance minister, told reporters that there was a strong coordination between Paris and Washington on their positions on China ahead of President Emmanuel Macron's recent visit to the country. Yeah, so I think that's the real thing there. Can you imagine if Macron would have gone to China without consulting or talking with the U.S. first, or putting them on notice first, saying, look, we're going to try to sell some airplanes, so I hope you don't mind, but we're going to badmouth you. We're going to say everything that we can against you that we're allowed to. Like we should distance ourselves a little bit from you, and Taiwan's not our problem. And the U.S. said, okay, we understand. You want to sell some airplanes and you got to lie a little. Okay, no biggie. And that's why the Biden administration, I think, said very little about Macron. And the people who really jumped up were the Republicans who said, oh, look what Macron's saying. No, he went there to sell some airplanes. That's what he went there for. He didn't do very well with that. So he had to come back to France with his tail between his legs. Chinese said, well, we'll see if we buy more airplanes. Okay. But yeah, I imagine if Macron would have gone in there and said, we hate all you Chinese and we think Taiwan should be a separate country and all this and that. Said, and by the way, do you want to buy our airplanes? I don't think it works that way. No. He had to badmouth the United States, put a little distance between it and France so that maybe the Chinese would warm up to his airplanes. That's how politics really done. That's why I gotten away from politics. Okay, how is the world doing? Well, here's the IMF's 5-year growth forecast is the weakest since 1990 for the world, for the entire planet. Okay, and it says the IMF forecasts that global economy will grow at a seasonal around 3% annually over the next 5 years. Not a very strong number. Okay, and again, I'm saying that the entire planet is getting into this asymptotic growth trend. Okay. Its weakest medium-term projection since 1990, and then there's the managing director of the IMF, cited geopolitical factors, stubbornly high inflation, and recent banking industry pressures for the lukewarm outlook. And it wasn't only the IMF, we had the World Bank also, and this is what they predict, and you can see that most of the countries are in the dark. The ones that are in the bright are countries that are in the developing stage. So, of course, they're going to suffer some increases, some big increases in their economies in the next maybe months or maybe a couple years. But they're going to level off as well. And just now, as you can see, for the global growth, it's just 1.7 this year. Numbers are not that great for the coming years. But the ones that are going to be driving the global growth are, as you can see, all these underdeveloped nations, primarily in Africa and Southeast Asia. But what happens when they achieve, their maximum development, their maximum economic evolution? Well, after that, all I can tell you is that, we cannot have the Klingons come and buy from us. Okay, so at that point, the Earth, are humans, the human economy doesn't grow anymore. So at some point, we're going to reach that point where it's zero growth for the entire planet as far as, economic growth. So I'm saying we're getting there. And when we do, that's it for man, okay? We don't go further beyond that. Okay, so here is another parameter, and that is the debt, okay, especially for China and the United States. And you can see how that's going up and up. Okay, they say due to fuel increase. I think it's a question of that they have to create money, and when they create money, why? Part of the reason is so that they can pay what they owe. And it's easy to create money. All you do is just put another zero in the computer. Now you have 10 times as much, right? And if you should put it at the end, not in front. But what happens when you have that situation? Well, all you're doing is creating money, but you haven't created the real value that underlies that nominal value. And you can't just keep doing that. But they have to do that in order to pay the debt. So they pay the debt in nominal value plus some interest, right? But they have to stay ahead of the game all the time. And you can't do that constantly, because then what you do is you leave behind the worker, the proletarian, who depends on his salary. And so, there's that give and take. And I'm not sure that they can overcome the debt. Debt is here to stay. And not only here to stay, but here to grow. Okay, so debt is a problem. And so we have what growth is a problem, debt is a problem, salaries are a problem, and of course, labor, the fact, unemployment, that's also a problem. Okay, and here we have India, and looking at its population, there was an article says the country's population has more than quadrupled since independence from colonial rule 75 years ago. But in the past 60 years, the percentage of people aged 60 and over in Kerala, a town over there, a region in India, has shot up from 5.1 to 16.5. Everybody's becoming old. Some of that has to do with migration, emigration, people, young people leaving, but some of it also has to do with the fact that kids are not having kids. Okay, they're just leaving and not creating new people. The aging population combined with the migration of younger generations means there will be 35 people over 60 in the state for every 100 working age people by 2030. So the numbers are not looking very great. Okay, the state's unique demographic is in India are due to the declining fertility and increasing life expectancies. So the population pyramid is overturning in India, and here we have Africa, which is half the population of India. Okay, all of Africa, the whole continent, about half the population of India. And look at the fertility rates. You can see that they used to have more children before, and now it's coming down for all these countries. And they think it's related to contraception, the fact that a lot of women are using contraception. I disagree. I don't think it's got to do with contraception specifically. It does help, yeah, of course. That's not the main reason. What is the main reason? Well, here was an article that says the world's peak population may be smaller than expected. And it's talking about Africa's slowing baby boom. Remember, Africa is the one everybody's counting on to take the numbers up, right, in population. It says here, demographers would be more inclined to agree that these fertility declines are real and likely to continue if they could easily identify their causes. They don't know the causes, okay? Teasing out the causality is tricky. Okay, so what's the problem? Well, they think it's contraception or family planning or girls' education, climate change. Okay, some propose that climate change is causing this whole problem. Economists in general think that poor families have more children. That's the worldly wisdom out there. And last but not least, the one that I propose is that last one there. And they just put it in there like, we saw it, but we don't pay too much attention to this. As there are often big regional differences. Fertility rates are much lower for urban women, who typically have 30 to 40% fewer children than those in the countryside. Yes, urbanization, that's what's killing population. Okay, people are moving from the country to the cities. There's this transition going on. That's the underlying cause. Okay, the underlying cause is that. Why? What happens when you come to the city? You have different economics, different culture. Okay, you have density-dependent birth rates. All these things that are caused by urbanization, the fact that we are many in a small area, in a small region. And people say, well, people can travel there, nobody's holding on to them. Turns out that everybody's tethered to the city for different reasons. That's where their livelihood is and whatever. And they can't work it out there in the middle of the desert, so everybody goes to the cities. And the cities are growing, and towns are becoming cities, villages are becoming towns, and so on. Populations are growing in the cities. That's where everybody's going. When you go to the cities, you abandon the country, and a lot of the agricultural corporations buy the land. They mass produce food that later on gets sold to the cities. That's the way it's working today. Okay, and so here you have what's happened in the last few years. Urbanization rate in Africa from 2000 to 2025. You can see how it's going up, 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 and up. And you can see some of the cities there that have ballooned also. And that's actually what's happening. People are moving from the country to the cities. So a lot of these countries, by the way, they're empty. People say, oh, they're so populated. No, Nigeria is an empty country. It's got a lot of land, believe me. But that's not where people are. People are always in the big cities, in Lagos, and all the big cities are where all these people are at. So people don't go out into the middle of the desert and say, I'm going to live here. No, it doesn't work anywhere. People go in the country, go from the towns to the cities. Okay, so yeah, this is what's happening. Here I have another side to that, which is density dependence. Okay, and here you see it. These are a list of animals for which it's been verified that they have density dependent birth rates. It's been measured. Okay, people have gone in there and studied them, and they made a list of at least some verified animals that when they reach a certain density for a given plot of land or whatever, they stop having kids, or their reproductive rate goes down as a whole for the whole herd or whatever they are, right? So yeah, density dependent. And by the way, humans are on the list. We are density dependent animals. Okay, we cannot avoid density dependence. It's been verified for humans as well. And that's why we're growing asymptotically as far as population is concerned. Not because there's not enough land in the world. I mean, just take Russia. It's got so much land out there. It's an empty country. And nobody lives over there on the other side of the Urals. Everybody lives, what, in Moscow, Leningrad, Stalingrad, and so on, St. Petersburg. That's where people go. They live in the cities. Those are the cities that are growing. Not out there in the middle of nowhere. Nobody goes out there. But you could change the trend by creating towns somehow, okay? And yeah, that's one of the things that they should be working on. I'm not even sure that's going to help in this day and age. But yeah, if they could create towns, new towns in the middle of nowhere, the government, create some kind of incentive for young people to go there, then you probably have an explosion of population again. I think that's the only way to do it. But it would have to be, at the point of a gun. You'd have to get people to get down there, I don't know, find gold and go as a miner or something like that, like in the 1849 to 49ers, right? Or Alaska gold. Okay, so this is what density-dependent birth rates conduces to. It's the overturning of the population pyramid and eventually to what? To extinction. Okay? There is no S-curve. The S-curve ends in a straight down exponential decline of humanity. Okay? So yeah, there is no smooth curve for the world population. It's going to get to a point and it's going to continue growing maybe slightly, less and less and less, approaching zero. But before that happens, the global economy, I think, will collapse, and then it's going to be straight down. That's why it's not going to be a smooth curve that goes up and down forever. No, it's just going to go all the way down exponentially.